Roblox is home to many games on their platform. Exploring their catalog of experiences, you can find various types of child-friendly games with thousands of people actively playing them. Most, if not all, of the games on the front page are pretty tame and safe for work. But looking behind the curtains of the front page, you can find some pretty interesting games, with one game in particular called Blood Debt, a game that plays similar to Murder Mystery, but like it's actually fun.
Yeah, we did it! Stand still, guys. Oh my god, oh my god. No!
Yeah.
Let's bang, okay?
No!
Oh, this is Invincible. This is over here. Look over here. This is a panel from Invincible. On the bottom right, it's Invincible. Top left, it's Conquest.
You're a fucking nerd, you know that?
Blood Debt takes inspiration from another game called Canada Simulator. This game has been blowing up as of recently, for it standing out from the other murder mystery type games. But not many people know about the lore in the world of Blood Debt. So in today's video, we'll be going through the lore behind the main characters and looking at how everything got to this point in Blood Debt. We take place in Europe and the Middle East. In the year 1986, a Netto representative named Poopytard was assassinated. Yes, that is his actual name. Causing a war between the Netto and the Middle East that led to the Netto getting control of the lands. While that was going on, tensions started to rise between Netto and the Nubic Union, due to the fact that the Nubic Union had allies who were living in the Middle East. We fast forward a bit, and between 1993 and 1994, a group of freedom fighters emerged from the Middle East, creating anti-government protests that sparked a revolution in response to a family of 4 being killed by Netto soldiers. Then, in 1995, multiple rebel groups arose to fight off the oppression that the Netto was forcing onto the regions. After the fight was over, the rebels were successful with their mission, as the Netto retreated from the regions they were trying to control. With this, the states formed the nation Kyrgyzstan, that was created by the Middle Eastern states and the allies within the Nubic Union. In 1997, a series of mall bombings would take place and sparked conflict between the Nubic Union and the Netto after they decided the culprit of the bombings were the Nubic Union. During this time, multiple men on both sides were forced to draft in the war, with only a few actually fighting. As the war continued, it became clear to the Nubic Union that they weren't going to win this, as the fight reached into the 1-year mark. Now we're at the present, where in 1999, the Nubic Union was defeated by the Netto, and the Union split into their own independent states and economies. This decision, however, put a lot of stress onto the civilians of the Nubic Union, who were struggling to survive, which led to people having to commit crimes and take loans from shady people to get by, even if it means having to spill some innocent blood to pay off their debt. Get it? Blood debt. Now that we've gone over the story of the game, let's explain the game modes, which are Debt Mode, Juggernaut Mode, and Team War Mode, which all have a significance within the story. In Debt Mode, you and a group of other people are living normally doing their usual routine, but someone in the group is there to kill, as they have some debt that they need to pay off. In this game mode, you either play as the killer, vigilante, or a bystander. As the killer, you're tasked by loan sharks to kill your targets. You'll be given some hints to describe what the target looks like. Most of the time though, people tend to ignore this fact, since when you're playing as a killer, you can basically just shoot anybody with no repercussion. As the vigilante, your role is like being the sheriff, where you gotta stop the killer from massacring everybody. But be careful, cause you look like any other normal person. So there can and will be a chance that people will think that you're the killer and try to kill you instead. Also, if you try killing anybody innocent, you also will die. Lastly is the bystander, which is pretty self-explanatory. All you have to do is survive the killer's attacks by either hiding or defending yourself with weapons and completing random tasks to reduce time. The next one is Juggernaut Mode. In Juggernaut Mode, you and your other comrades are tasked with surviving a shooter going around killing everybody. You can either keep running around or find a room to lock yourself in. After the first initial timer runs out, any players who die during the shooting will respawn as officers, who will swarm the building trying to take down the shooter. But if you somehow didn't get Swiss cheese, you will be equipped with a firearm to shoot others with. Now, depending on who the shooter is, after each round, you can read their motives and intentions for why the killers did what they did. But we'll get to that later in the video. The last game mode is Team War Mode, which is pretty much a team deathmatch between 2 gangs. Depending on the environment that you're in, you and your team will either be driving out in the streets causing mayhem, or sneaking around abandoned buildings massacring anyone in your way. Currently, the game mode has 4 teams that you'll be randomly joining, with them being the Street Gang, Heist Crew, Bratva, and the Nubagami. Just like the previous mode, after each round, you get a description of the aftermath for both maps. For the map that takes place indoors, it'll read,
They came for us in the dead of night, thinking they had the upper hand. But their streets don't favor the weak. We left their bodies where they fell, their names carved into the dirt like forgotten ghosts. We run this city now.
If the round takes place out in the streets, it'll say,
They came in fast, thinking they would take our streets. But when the smoke cleared, it was their wrecks burning, blood on the pavement. This city is still ours, like it always was.
Now that we've talked about the modes available in the game, let's finish off with the killers and their motives. Now, even though in Debt mode the killer can be anyone, in Juggernaut mode, it's always a specific group of people with their own backstory. What the first one we'll be talking about is Alexei Tarasov. Alexei was a 19-year-old military fanboy who oddly had a creepy fascination with all things about war. He worked at the supermarket in the Nubic Union, but in his spare time, he liked to look through his grandpa's collection of army memorabilia and read books about guns. Things only started to escalate when on his birthday, Alexei was gifted a computer. After this, anyone close to him would talk about all the weird stuff he'd do. To make matters even more concerning, he started to hunt wild animals out in the woods. But disturbingly though, it was like he was doing it for fun. After some time, Alexei would go on to shoot up the office building in Juggernaut mode. After the round, we get a statement from his father, who says,
He never talked about anything but guns. He would explain how easy it would be to do something big, like he was discussing the weather. No one took him seriously until he did it.
Ryman is a 20-year-old woman with a passion to write. Throughout her life, she never had anyone that actually cared for her. Until one night at a bar, she met up a guy named Sergey, a playboy manager who constantly flirts with his female employees at work, at the office complex in Juggernaut mode. On the night they met, they decided to hook up, and considering this was the first time Ryman had someone to love, she became overly attached with Sergey, sending him love letters to his house to try to meet up again. But like we discussed before, Sergey likes to hop from relationship to relationship. So when Ryman found out he was going with another woman, she became deeply depressed, isolating herself from the outside world, using alcohol. Oh wait, I can't say that. This is a Roblox game. She drank a lot of Bloxy Cola and Witch's Brew to help her cope with the fact that she got played by this game's version of Quagmire, leading to her snapping and going on to shoot up the office complex in Juggernaut mode. During the aftermath of the shooting, we get a statement by the police where they say,
We found her apartment full of empty bottles and old love letters. The girl never moved on. She just sat there rotting until finally she snapped.
Vadimir is a 40-year-old man who can't forget about the past. Before all of this, he was a normal guy living with his relatives, always happy to lend a hand. But when the war between the Nubic Union and the NATO started, all he could talk about was politics everywhere he went. He was an avid believer in the Communist Party, believing that the communism would solve all of the society's problems. But things only got worse when the war ended, with the fall of the Nubic Union, which left Vadimir with nothing but anger and resentment for the ones responsible, blaming the higher-ups for this outcome, in which at some point, Vadimir goes on to shoot up the office complex in Juggernaut mode. During the aftermath of the attack, we get a statement from his relative, where they say,
He always ranted about the glory days like he was living in another era. At work, no one took him seriously. At home, he had no one. Just him and his Nubic posters, his relics, and his anger.
There are other characters to discuss, but this game got way too many people to cover in just this one video. So I might make a part 2, discussing these civilians and their backstories. As of right now, this is all that is to it when it comes to the lore of Blood Debt. And considering that this game is still in development, the same can be said for the story too. If you're interested with anything I've talked about, I'll leave a link to the game's official website, which goes into more detail about the events and the characters. Even though this game can be pretty dark and disturbing with its concept, I'd say on the surface level, the game is actually somewhat lighthearted and pretty funny to play with friends, especially with voice chat.
Go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom.
I can't wait to see what the developers add to this game, but for now, that's all. So I'll see you guys in the next one.